I think it's a great honour for any individual to be picked by a set of extraterrestrials as their representatives, and such people really need to be honoured, because it's not an easy job. In our society, people who have had these direct encounters have had tremendous challenges to overcome, obstacles thrown their way that have had a profoundly disturbing effect on families, careers, lives. So it's not easy to be a representative of a race of beings who have a positive message about our future. And what we're going to hear now for the next hour and a half is someone talking to us about a race of extraterrestrials who do have a very positive image for us in terms of where we're going, the potential, the incredible potential we have, the diversity of genetics and experiences that we have acquired over millennia of experiences. He's going to be introducing us to a set of extraterrestrials who really do have firmly conveyed to him their image or their vision of what we hold, what we can create, what we are capable of achieving. And so our next speaker, Alex Collier, is someone who has taken on this job, this challenge, with great courage, great integrity, and has maintained that despite the tremendous challenges that have come his way. And he has a message to share, a message that he has not been in the American public disseminating for 6 years now. His last public appearance in the United States was in 2002. So it's been 6 years that he took time off so that he could just give himself a time out, because, as I said, the type of attacks, challenges that contactees face are incredible, very disturbing in all aspects. And so Alex has now come back to give us again his message, his experiences with the Andromedans, and he has something that I think is as relevant today as it was back in 1990, almost 20 years ago, when he first began to speak. And maybe now we are more ready for that message as opposed to when he first came out courageously bringing forward this message of hope and inspiration. And maybe now we are part of that group, that gathering, that can help realise this vision. So without further ado, I introduce Alex Collier.
Thank you, Michael. Hello? Hello? There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a real honor for me to be here to share the stage with so many awesome speakers. Yes, I took a hiatus, and a well-deserved hiatus. I started talking about this in the early 1990s, and very few people were ready to hear about it. And I was very passionate about it, and I kept bucking the system, only to get pushed back and pushed back. And there comes a point where you know that you just have to let go. You know it in relationships, you know it in a career. Sometimes you even know it with yourself or with members of your family. You just have to just stop pushing, you just let go. And that's what I had to do. And in that process of letting go, I evolved a lot. And that needed to happen. I needed to grow. It doesn't seem like it, but for 40 years, I have had a relationship with human beings from the constellation of Andromeda. It started when I was 8 years old, and I only have an hour and a half, so I just want to kind of skim through this, because all the information, or most of the information that you want, is available for free on the internet, and it is for free. I don't own the material. I just volunteered to deliver the message. These contacts started when I was 8 years old, and I was vacationing in the upper northern peninsula of Michigan. My family was living in Illinois at the time, Elk Grove Village, Illinois, and my grandparents owned a cabin up near a Woodstock, Crooked Lake area of northern Michigan. And we used to go up there every summer, and it was awesome. It was just an awesome place. And the first contact, we had gone out into some fields we had all the family there. It was a big gathering, all the cousins, and we were on a family picnic. And we went up there we went out to this huge field where the picnic area was, and it was very high grass and acorn trees everywhere, chestnut trees, and we went out to play hide and go seek. Because the grass was tall, a lot of us would just lay down on the grass and we would just hang out. Well, that's what I did, and it was, mid-afternoon. I don't know the exact time because, children don't pay attention to that.
In detail, please describe your first contact at 8 years of age in 1964.
I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew that I supposedly had fallen asleep, and when I woke up it was evening. Everybody had been looking for me, and I wasn't where I was. And when I took them back to show them where the imprint was, we were playing hide and go seek, and this was in the peninsula of Michigan, near Woodstock, Michigan. And people had been looking for me, and I wasn't there, and I got a spanking, because I wasn't where I was supposed to be, and I'd been missing for hours. I didn't really know what had occurred until the second contact, which was at age 14, where I was told what had happened, that they had given me a physical, they had given me a suggestion to forget because of my family members just simply wouldn't understand. And they were right. They were very right about that. We had gone out to play into the fields, and I laid down in the tall grass, and I can remember throwing chestnuts out of the way to create a place for myself to lay. And when I fell asleep, and when I woke up, it was almost going on 9 o'clock. And I remember getting up and running back to the picnic area where the family was, and there was a police dog, a Michigan State police car there, and my folks and cousins, because it was kind of a family thing because everybody goes back to school. And I got the tar licked out of me for disappearing, and I told them where I had been, and they didn't believe me, so I took them back to where I was with the flashlights, and sure enough there was my body imprint, and they swore they had been all through that area looking for me. It wasn't until age 14 that I actually understood what had happened then.
Now at age 14, what was the nature of that contact?
I was taken out of bed. And I woke up and I was on a table in a room, and this was my first introduction to Visayas and Morene, at least conscious introduction.
But what had happened was I had fallen asleep, and the next thing I remember is I am on this table, and there are two gentlemen standing on either side of me, Visayas and Morene.
When I woke up, and there were two men looking down at me, and they were human beings, except they have no hair, and their skin is light blue. And they were looking down, and I did, on a soul level, experience a recognition. There was no fear whatsoever.
Now what's interesting is that I had an absolute instant recognition of who they were, and I cannot explain it, other than it was a soul connection. But when you meet somebody, you just know them. It was one of those. And they were very, very sensitive. They were very warm. They were very friendly. I didn't feel a moment of fear whatsoever. And I remember them helping me sit up, and I'm just looking, and well, where am I? And Visayas said, well, you are with us. And I said, well, where's that? And he said, well, you are aboard our craft. We have come back to visit you. And at that point, monitors, the walls were just like this, right here. Okay, but round, circular. There was a light in the room that I simply don't know where it came from because there were no light fixtures whatsoever. The table was just some kind of a metal table with a pad on it, except it was a different type of metal. And all of a sudden, monitors start popping out from the walls, like out of nowhere. turns out that this is their holographic technology, all this instrumentation.
And we talked, and they showed me some things about my physical self.
And all of these things were showing me pictures of things of going on that were going on inside my body.
They also gave me a ball which recorded my entire energy field, who I was, who I've been in past lives.
At one point, Phaseus reached under the table, pulled out something which looked like a little yarmulke. It was metallic, that had a hole in the center. He placed it on my head, and instantly a monitor directly in front of me pulled out of the wall and started showing me scenes, like movie clips, except they were scenes from lifetimes.
And as it was recording this, I could see all these different images of who I'd been going across the screen.
And as I'm watching this, I am having a profound emotional effect watching this. And I know that that's me. I knew that the past lives that they were showing me were me. And it was me in completely different bodies, extraterrestrial bodies, different life forms, male, female, androgynous. And it was me. And I knew it was me. Ladies and gentlemen, it was profound. It was absolutely profound.
And they saved this, and this was put into the computer so that they would contact me and could contact me no matter where they were at any particular time that they need to.
They told me that they had come back to visit because genetically, or on a soul level, I was part of them. That I had come here 62,000 years ago as an outpost on Earth and got caught between a skirmish between two other rival extraterrestrial races here, and I was killed. So I had been here for a while, trying to evolve out of this. Or I made choices to be here. I don't exactly know that. My relationship with the Andromedans have been primarily with two beings. A very old gentleman, a sage. His skin has gone pale because of his age. His name was Phaseus. They don't really use names, they use symbols, but for the benefit of me, because of our culture and how we like to label things on the planet, his tone, his frequency, his symbol would equate to the word Phaseus. So he was Phaseus. Phaseus was about 4 foot 11, 4 foot 9 tall. Very old. In our years, he was 4,300 years old. So he was like a Yoda, but very stiff, very stiff.
Now, one of your contacts is a 4 foot 11-inch light blue skin being called Phaseus.
That's correct.
Please describe his or her personality in detail.
Phaseus, well, he's very serious. He's very benevolent. He's considered a sage in his world. He's an incredible healer. He has perspectives on things that are just far beyond anyone that I know. He's very direct. He's very humble. He's very soft. He's very direct. And when he moves into a room, like when I've walked with him or walked with the others, when we walk into rooms or different areas of motherships and the ships, energy changes. People, of course, they're very in touch with energy themselves. They instantly turn and they acknowledge him and they bow. I guess he would be considered an Ishwish or a Yahweh, an Admiral, or I don't want to use the word God.
An elder.
An elder, of tremendous of wisdom and insight. And that they take very seriously what is going on here. And the manipulations, the things that the Greys, the Orions, and the Reptilians are doing here. They're appalled with what's going on here.
Mornay, on the other hand, is 2,300 years old. He was very young, very strong. He's 7 foot tall, 400 pounds, and he's just perfect.
They say that they are our cousins, and that we actually have some of their genetics inside of us.
And Mornay, he's a 7.5 foot snow white skin hairless being. Also,
he's light blue as well.
oh, light blue. I'm sorry.
He's light blue.
Can you describe his or her? Oh, he. Can you describe his personality then in detail?
He's serious, but he also has a really good sense of humor. He can snap me out of my depressions very quickly, and he has just a different perspective of looking at things. He also tends to be part of their exploratory team. In other words, when there are times when they need to defend themselves or they're confronted with something, he takes on a military type of role. He's very, very fatherly, big brother. He's also one that he shows more emotion. He'll give you a hug or put his arm around you, he's just really, really wonderful in that sense. He's more human in that sense. He's not as sterile sometimes as Visayas would appear to be. It's not that they're not loving, but sometimes Morene is a lot more animated. And I can relate more to him, and I think he can relate more to the emotions that we experience here, the tremendous extremes that we experience. I think he's a little bit more in touch with that, than maybe sometimes Visayas appears to be.
Now let me ask you, what was the most memorable experience you've had with Morene?
I can't talk about that. I won't talk about that.
Okay.
He's loosened up. He's learned to talk. He has a sense of humor. Many of them do. But because they're telepathic, you don't actually hear the jokes. Okay. And I was very self-conscious in the beginning because sometimes they would look and then they would smile and kind of giggle and they're talking about you, but you just don't know what it is, You can't even eavesdrop. So it's been an extremely interesting experience.
I was asked if I wanted to help them. I agreed to do this, although at the time I didn't know exactly what it would entail. I had at any time the choice to say no more, but it's been an incredible experience for me.
It wasn't until 1985 that the contacts started again on a regular basis. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, just to give you an idea of where I was in 1985, I had worked for a few years for the Internal Revenue Service. I had been a tax collector, and I was assigned to and I'm ashamed to say it, but I was a good tax collector. I was assigned to a task force that was supposed to do undercover work for oil company fraud. And our training was to be in Washington, D.C., and while I was there, I used my security pass to get into the National Archives. And you're not allowed to really make copies of things when you're in the National Archives unless your security clearances was much higher than what mine was. Anyway, I left the Internal Revenue Service and I opened up my own accounting practice. I started helping people with IRS collection problems because that's not something that you can learn going to tax school or going to a university. You have to have on-the-job training. Well, I started my practice, took the CPA exam. For 5 years, I had a practice in Beverly Hills and Malibu. I was living on a 700-acre horse ranch in Malibu at the time the contacts restarted. Now, within 2 months of the contacts restarting, I totally walked away from my tax practice. And I just realized that a lot of it was just BS. And it just wasn't working for me. I had made some major shifts in a very short time. The contacts have been relatively continuous. They're both physical as well as telepathic.
Now, in 1985, your contacts with Visayas and Morne began to become more frequent. Please describe the nature of your contacts and the content of your discussions and the ways in which you communicate with them?
We don't have enough time for that.
Okay.
But, you know, we have put together a series 1 and Series 2 of this information. In 1985, it really started to, the information, they were physical. It evolved around the Greys, the Earth agenda, our spirituality, religions, Earth governments, Earth history, our genetic creations, the 22 different races that have actually colonized the Earth at one time or another, and who we have within us genetic racial memories of, within our DNA. And present time, things that are occurring now, and probable, I stress, probable future events, because the future is being created every day, and it's being changed every day, based on our thoughts. So, I mean, just to sum up it is, I would need 10 hours.
Okay.
You know, that's not something I could very simply go into.
Okay.
But the series of 8 and so on and so forth does in fact cover that.
Okay.
All that information.
All right.
Now I know I can't prove any of this to you, but it's real for me. It's totally real for me. And I share that with you because as you're exercising discernment, those of you who are here just exploring, trying to figure it out, you are soul first. Okay, the physicality is the last part of you. You are soul first. And the soul is far wiser than the body will ever be. And I know that. Okay, so that this was very real and is real for me.
Andromedans. Who exactly are the Andromedans?
They're a particular race that exist in the constellation of Andromeda. They're just one of thousands that exist out there. They are the particular races that I talk to and have had contact with and have given me and shared information with me are human. They're white-skinned to light blue-skinned, anywhere from 4 foot tall to 8 feet tall. And they are human in every way.
Now, where did they originate, Alex?
All human life originated in Lyra. And when Lyra fell during a war, long before one of the stars there exploded, they migrated out from Lyra during a war in order to preserve the race, and they went to different parts of our galaxy. So all human life originated from Lyra originally. Because of their environment, they will, from generation to generation, pick up physical changes, depending upon the surface and the organics of their planets and so on and so forth. The different colored race skins have to do with genetics involving the stars in which that they're exposed to. So that's basically where they came from.
So their primary home star then is Lyra?
Yes.
And is that currently
Originally
still their home star?
No, there's no human life in Lyra.
So now where do they exist now?
In the constellation of Andromeda.
Okay. Throughout the constellation?
Yes.
Okay. They must be very plentiful then. There must be a great, vast civilization there.
Yes, there is. It's an ancient race.
The Andromedans are light blue skinned. They have 3 sexes, androgynous, male and female. They live in a spiritual community, where their lifespan is anywhere from an average of 1,900, 1,800 years to 2,300 years. Some of their race actually live much longer, but that's the average.
Alex, what is the Andromedan Council?
It is a It is a political body that's represented by now 133 different races and cultures and planetary systems. There are over 1,200 systems and planetary races, evolving races that could be part of the Andromeda Council, but not all of them are. it would be comparable to Earth here to like a United Nations, except it's not a United Nations in the sense that it has a political agenda. The Andromedan Council, as a body, their sole purpose is to facilitate evolvement of all life in the galaxy. And that's really what their goal is to allow all life forms to evolve on their own without manipulation. Obviously that's not occurring here on Earth. And we're not the only ones. This is occurring on 22 other planets in our galaxy. But the other planets are not stuck in the muck that we are, to the degree that we are here. And this is a major concern for them, because we're not moving in a direction that we should be moving. There are elements here that are definitely holding us back. And because Earth has become this real prize, and not only Earth, but us as well. So I'm getting off a little bit. I want to stay with your questions.
So its overall goals then are to elevate the spirituality of all life forms in their own particular ways.
Evolutionary ways, right. That they evolve according to the degree of their consciousness.
Now, how and why was it first brought into existence, the Andromedan Council?
I don't know.
When
I do know that it was formed. It was formed shortly after the Orion Wars, which was a huge war that lasted 600,000 years in our galaxy. And it was predominantly between the humans, the human race, of which there's all kinds of humans, hundreds of billions of humans, and those of reptilian races that do coexist in our galaxy.
Now,
there was no winner, by the way. Apparently both sides got so tired of killing each other, they just kind of stopped, and a undeclared truce was formed. And I know in Orion, where there's a very large group, they have their own political group called the Orion Group, and the humans and other life forms that came together formed the Andromedan Council. And there are others, that are a small part of each of the galaxy, and other galaxies apparently have their own little groups where people come together and decide, what's happening, or they communicate with each other. There's trade, there's bartering, there's a sharing of wisdom, of knowledge, of essences, so that everything can evolve together, and work in an unconditional love type of space.
Have they described what their civilization is like to you?
Yes, they have.
Could you go into
Sure.
some of the details that strike you the most about their civilization?
They're essentially, no matter where they are, they're a one-world government. Their society would be approximately 4,700 years more advanced than ours on a spiritual level. On a technological level, they're 50,000 years.
Now,
but there's a balance between their technology. In other words, the technology they create is based on a spiritual necessity to evolve, and not on one to defend themselves, even though it can be used for that.
Now, when you say 4,700 years advanced spiritually,
yes,
how do you measure spiritual advancement in years?
I don't really know. That's what they've expressed to me.
I see.
And they don't even use time in their world. There's no such thing really. But they use those numbers to accommodate us so that we can use those as a point of reference.
I see. Okay. What is there an economy, and what is the basis of their economy? Is it like a spiritual economy, or is it like the value? I've heard some people describe their views of other extraterrestrial civilizations as having a spiritual economy where the amount of psychic energy you put into something is given a value. Have they expressed any how their social systems work?
Okay, I know a little bit about that. Essentially, everybody is given exactly what it is they need to evolve. There are many different races each race has their own uniqueness about them based on their particular belief systems. And my understanding is that everything is a belief system. As far as the Andromedan culture, children go to school, or the Andromedans, they go through a birth process just like we do, those that are physical. They go to school for anywhere from 120 to 150 years. They're taught all of the major sciences and arts. There would be equivalent to PhDs or doctorates or masters, whatever you want to call it, in all of the arts. It is at that point, once they're done with all of that education, that they choose what it is that they wish to do or to evolve. And they can change their mind anytime they want. The whole purpose is the evolution of the soul and life. They're given whatever it is that they need to do that. I'm not aware of crime or whatever, or anything along those lines. Their whole focus is on education and not distraction. If it's something that is not educational, from what I've observed, it's just simply something they're not interested in. They just have it within them to constantly evolve on an educational as well as a spiritual level. And whatever they need is there for them to use. I'm not aware of them having to pay anything for it. No. It just, to my knowledge, it doesn't exist.
Their children go to school to what would be the equivalent of our years, 150 to 180 years, where they learn all the sciences, they get all the degrees, and everything that is available as far as knowledge at the moment is taught to them. So when these kids grow up, they are in fact smarter than their parents. And that's called the law of consistency, which is what they practice. All right? They would never, ever consider dumbing down their children so that they could be managed or controlled, because that's sabotaging the race. Okay?
How have they expressed what their daily life is like? Is there a solar day for them, or is there night or day, or what is their daily life like, or periods of life?
There is really, to my knowledge, no set schedule. I'll give you the example of what I observed on one of their motherships. They don't require much sleep, to my knowledge, simply because I guess they're very healed. Their beings, their physical form, they're just incredibly healed. They're just in touch. There is no night and day. They don't need to experience that. Although I'm sure other races have that, but the Andromedans don't. They're just constantly stretching themselves, trying to evolve and experience more and more and more all the time. They're happy people. They don't have the extremes of emotions that we express here. In fact, I've been told that virtually few races in the entire galaxy express the realm of emotions that we experience here. They're just always in a very wonderful space. They're not a civilization that really judges. They do accept things the way they are, with the exception of when those things threaten their particular lifestyle or what they're about, their essence, and others, what other races might experience or perceive as a threat.
Now, Alex, you said they're evolving spiritually. What do they want to evolve towards? What spiritual goals do they have?
I guess to be just the best that they are, to be completely at one with all that there is at all times. There are 11 creational densities, and my understanding is that within each of the densities you change your physical form. Their goal as a race is to go from the densities that they experience, which are 3, 4, and 5, I guess to move to 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then from there 8, 9, and 10, and then to 11, and now the new dimensional realm that's being created, 12. It's just to continue to evolve. Nobody knows exactly what the ultimate goal is, because the essences that they're in touch with, that are on 9th, 10th, and 11th, are continuing to evolve. And now there's a 12th density that's being added to our universe, and they're being drawn up to experience this new density. So nobody really knows what the ultimate spiritual goal is. They themselves are still searching for what God is. They know it exists, but what it is, nobody really knows, which is why they call it the isness. It's just a force that's there. And how we perceive it is based on how we perceive ourselves and our own belief structures, belief systems. And that's how we use the energy to create.
Now,
So they have all these sciences, they have all this technology. They travel in arcs, or motherships, we would call them. The one that I'm the most familiar with, that I spent 3 months on, is an 800 miles cylindrical sphere that has hundreds of floors. It is much bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And I have no idea how they do that. I still don't know. But even their scout craft are bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. They have these enormous parks on the inside where they grow all their food. They are fruitarians. Okay? They breathe oxygen like we do. They drink water like we do. But they live off of fruit. And they grow these type of fruits on their craft. They have 20, 30, 40-mile parks on virtually every floor, and along the sides of the parks is where they habitate. There's like apartments all around the circles, and there's wildlife, there's animals, there's birds, things that look like squirrels. There's all these different life forms. They also have a lot of different colors. Because they're fifth density, their color spectrum is 221 colors, where our bandwidth is only 72 here. So it's impossible for me to share with you some of the colors that I've seen, because there's just no way. There's no point of reference for me to share that with you here.
What do they call their world in their language?
They don't speak. Everything is a symbol there. The whole race is telepathic. And I want to back up just a little bit. There are 28 different races there. Not all are human. Many are dimensional, plasmic, organic, that were there before the human aspect of the Andromedans themselves, or the Lyrans, got there and became Andromedans. There's a lot of life on the different dimensional levels that if we were to go to fifth density, we would be physical on fifth density, even though here we're on third density. Our perspective of them is being spirit. So, on each of the different dimensions, there is an abundance of life that is completely different than how we would perceive it. Because, our perception is of what third density is like. Even fourth density is very different, but we will have physical form in fourth density.
Now, is third density the lowest density, or are there others lower?
The animal and insect kingdoms would be, and planetary systems would be considered lower, but to be perfectly honest with you, I've not had a clear definition of that, because I haven't asked. My focus really has been us, and where do we go from here?
Right.
So
now, what is the main difference between the third density and the fourth density?
The real difference is consciousness. In fourth density, you can pretty much instantly create what it is that you think. Whatever your thoughts are, you manifest almost instantaneously. So there is a major degree of responsibility in dealing with that. Also in fourth density, we become more of a group mind. In fourth density, we're all telepathic. In other words, everybody can read each other's minds, which means you have to be real. You can't have hidden agendas, because people will see right through you. Also in fourth density, we all become clairvoyants. We'll be able to see energy fields, see life forms, which means that if you're hiding something, it'll be seen instantaneously. They've also said that in fourth density, when we move into that, our court systems will change. There's still a positive and negative. That exists all the way to the fifth density, where you will experience to a strong degree the dualities in our everyday environments. What will happen is you'll have a judge and you'll have a jury who will all be clairvoyants, and they will read the energy field and know who's telling the truth and who isn't. And everything will be judged based on that, will be based on energy, not on words. When you, in fourth density, when you walk by somebody or you touch somebody's hand, you will instantly know everything about them. So again, there will be no hidden agendas. Everybody will really have to be real. And if they choose to have and continue to play out their agendas, whatever those are, then they will have the space. But you will know, or people will know, I will know who we're dealing with instantaneously.
You mentioned that they're in contact with essences from the 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Yes.
Can you describe what they describe these beings to be like to them, and what they would be like to human beings?
It's just pure consciousness. What their daily lives are like, I don't know. I don't have any idea.
Have they described them at all in any sort of detail to you?
Just light.
Just light.
Just light.
Oh, just light.
Just light. You know, that's all I know.
Now, how does the symbol they gave you play a role in your contacts with them?
Symbol.
Apparently, they gave you a symbol that you use when you
want to talk to them.
Want to talk to them.
The symbol was something that I chose.
Oh, I see. Okay. Do they ever talk amongst themselves in a language you don't understand?
They do, and it's not really a language. They're telepathic, and yes, they'll stand in circles when they're talking, and when they do talk, flashes of light where their third eye is, right here, different flashes of colors that we don't even have on our third density spectrum, just appear, and they're just boom, 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 flashing all this color, and it's like instantaneous sentences are being just communicated, and sometimes there's nodding, sometimes there's nodding this way, or sometimes up and down, sometimes there's gestures, but all the time there's just flashes, and their flashes is their language. It's rare that I've been privy to what it is because they happen so fast. I couldn't assimilate it.
So there are some universal gestures then.
Yes. All human beings are very animated. Yes, they smile. They also frown, and they also look very sad when something is distressing them. So they do experience it. They do experience emotions, but not to the degree that we do. After they've had their discussions, one will turn to me. Usually, most of the time it's Morene, and he'll talk to me like I'm talking to you. He'll actually go to the great lengths to speak to me. Or sometimes it's just telepathic. And he'll just look at me, and for a while there I wasn't always getting the message because I was so focused on the color that was flashing in front. I was watching that, I was like, wow, this is really amazing. But sometimes I'd have to repeat it. But now that novelty has worn off, so now I listen to the message. And Phaseus is almost always telepathic. So that's what they do.
Just curious, how did your communication process with the Andromedans, and is it at your request or their request, and how often does it occur, and all that kind of stuff?
Well, there's absolutely no pattern to it. And, gosh, you hear? Okay, he wanted to know how the communication with the Andromedans goes. Is it at my request or their request? Sir, there is no pattern to it. They let me know. I will go outside at night, which I do every night, and I will look up at the sky, and I will project a symbol, which is a communication that I have with them. And I don't always get a response. Sometimes I have to wait months to get a response. But they're almost always at night. They're both telepathic as well as verbal. Now, Morene is the only one that has actually gone to the effort to learn to speak. Phaseus doesn't. It's all telepathic, and they talk in symbols. Now,
and all All the animal life is telepathic. It completely interacts with all of the people there. The children are all telepathic. They do not speak. Very few do. Morine has learned to speak, and that's because of my relationship with him over the last 40 years. He made an effort. I love them. I absolutely love them. They are my brothers. They are my family, and the Andromedan people love us because genetically they're connected to us. And they have been extremely worried about us for a long time.
Okay, now, what abilities do the Andromedans possess that exceed those of Earth humans? You've mentioned telepathy.
Well,
You've mentioned
that's an interesting question, and I don't know that I necessarily like the way you put it. The abilities that they have are latent in everybody. They just haven't lived in a society that has been screwed with like we have been here. They're all telepathic, they're all clairvoyant, they're all healers because they're taught all of the sciences. They're whole. I guess that's the only way that I can put it to you, is that they're completely whole. Every soul knows who they are, they know who they've been, they know what their reincarnational past has been. They as a soul have a personal agenda which every time they incarnate they're consciously aware of. So they know where they're going. They see improvement in themselves life after life after life. We, if we hadn't been so screwed with here, would have the same abilities. We could very much be where they are. But we've been manipulated incredibly for the last 5,700 years on an intense level every day. Our real manipulation really started about 14,000 years ago, when the Orion group started manipulating our DNA structure. So it isn't that they're better, because they're not. We're just different. We're a little bit behind than they are because of our manipulations here. But the real bottom line here is we're all spirit. We contain a soul. That soul is a part of all that is. And that soul has been really trying to be recognized in each of us. And it hasn't been because of the material and the belief systems that we have evolving around us being earth people, about being physical, and about the real truths of our essence, of our existence, of who we are, having been blinded from us, from our spiritual teachings, from the religions, and us being convinced that we're something that we're not, that we're physical, that we're animal form, and we're not. We're spirit. Our spirit animates these physical forms, period.
Now, how many human beings is the Andromeda Council in contact with on Earth? I remember you saying at one time 4.
To my knowledge, they're in contact with 4. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't know if there are more, if there are going to be more. I know there's one in the United States, there's one in South America, one in Asia, one in Europe. But there are other groups that are here, over 170, who may also on some level be talking to people and communicating, whether it's physical or telepathic or through mediumship, dealing with the different spiritual levels. There's a lot of information that's being sent down here.
Are they finding it's effective? Is it working?
To a degree, it's not working as quickly as they want, simply because most people are incredibly apathetic. They're stuck in their 9 to 5. I have to make my mortgage payment. My kids got to get to school in the morning, and I don't give a damn about anything else. And unfortunately, that isn't going to work. It isn't going to save you. It isn't going to protect you. There's so much more going on here. And we are just one small part of this whole picture that's going on. And we have to wake up. Period.
You mentioned throw the television out. Are television programs conditioning our youth into accepting these hostile beings, do you think? Or is that just human beings doing anything for a buck?
I don't necessarily know. I don't know. But the violence is desensitizing. Violence is just a way of life now. We've been taught that. We've been programmed that violence is just a way of life. So when we see really violent acts, oh, that's too bad. Well, honey, what's on Channel 7? Or what movie are we going to rent tonight? That's what it's come to. And it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. There is no reason that any of this has to occur at all. It really doesn't. And a lot of it is the responsibility of the people. Because if the producers in Hollywood are going to make movies like this, and we're going to go and buy the tickets, well, they're going to be motivated for the buck to continue to make these kind of movies. Where if they spend $20 million and nobody buys a ticket, they won't be making those kind of movies. So it comes back to people taking personal responsibility for what they think, what they want to believe, and what it is that they want to create. That every American should march on Washington, D.C. and should fire every single person that's there. They have run this country into the ground. They have totally sold us out to the United Nations for a buck, for the debt. And, even the monetary system, it's just a belief system. We could change that tomorrow if we wanted to. I mean, we're so intelligent. We could create something different, but we're believing, we've got to have this money. Do you know that we're the only race in our galaxy where people starve, that people are homeless? I mean, it's such bull. It doesn't have to be like this. If you're alive and you're on a planet and other civilizations, even the draconian races, they take care of their own. They don't sell out each other like we do here. They don't throw somebody in the street because they don't have a paper, which is really what it is. And the only value on it is what we believe it is. They just don't have that. They don't let children starve. They don't feed grain to cattle that feed 20% of the population and let the other 25% that need the grain starve. It's unconscionable. They would never even think to do that. But we do it here. For bucks. For money. For power.
That's part of that conditioning process that's been going on 5,700 years.
That's part of it. But the responsibility is that there are people that know what's going on and they play the game anyway. They don't have the courage to say, look, folks, let's deal with the realities here. Do you know much about the New World Order? Do you know that they're building concentration camps to put millions of people in? Do you know that the United Nations has got 300,000 troops in the United States right now that they're going to use to confiscate weapons? And they're sending our active military troops out of the United States so they won't be here when this happens? Are you aware that that's going on? Do you know that just off the coast just south of the border in Veracruz, there are 300 tons of Soviet military equipment ready to invade? I mean, this is that there are states actually wanting to secede from the Union. Yes, there are 9 different regions. The United States has already been designated to be split up. They're getting ready to totally dismantle the United States of America. And the only real part of the United States of America, and I get so angry with this, is Washington, D.C. 68 square miles. That's really all that is the United States. We are in the Republic of Arizona. People in California are in the Republic of California. It is those separate republics that make up a United States. Washington, D.C. has totally manipulated everything. We're no longer the United States, what the forefathers founded. It isn't that at all. And in 1992, the Congress approved the UN Charter. Well, what people aren't aware of, because it wasn't printed in the press, in the newspapers, in our controlled media, is that because it's a treaty, it supersedes the Constitution of the United States. The UN Charter is now the law of the land, not the Constitution anymore. And in the UN Treaty, Articles 55 and 56, look it up, folks, prove me wrong, state that the United States Congress no longer has to abide by the U.S. Constitution. As of 1992, the United States of America ceases to exist. They just haven't told the people yet. And they're not going to tell them until after they have outlawed all weapons, after they have totally regulated the Second Amendment and taken everybody's firearms away, so you can't fight, so you can't stand there and be free anymore. This is all part of the plan. This is why the Andromedans are so strong about trying to make the awareness here in the United States, because not only does it control media, but there are some incredibly strong spiritual essences here, people here, you know, because right now this is where the battle is, between light and dark. You've got the grays over us, you've got the reptilians underneath us, and between us you've got humanity of the human. You've got the American people, I mean all of the world, but you've got humanity sandwiched in the middle, wondering what the hell is going on here. You see, you know, there are people probably saying, well, God, why don't they just come down and save us? There's a lot to that. Number one, if we're rescued, we don't permanently evolve ourselves. Number two, we won't take responsibility. If something goes wrong, we can always blame it on them. Number three, it doesn't just change our reality, it changes their reality as well. Number four, the Andromedans and most of the other benevolent races, they don't want to have to come down here and babysit us. That's not their job. It's not their job at all.
Now, in the way you told me that...
And number four, and number five, let me just add this. Look at how we've treated our Earth. Look at how we've trashed it ourselves. You know, they're like, why should we come down here and help you when you don't want to even help yourself? Or even make the effort? You know, the cleaning up the planet we're giving to government bureaucracies. Well, here's $3 billion here. There's $10 billion there. Here's the super fund to clean up toxic waste, $20 billion. And the place is getting worse. You know, that's not the problem. The problem is on an individual level, on an individual basis. Just don't create plutonium anymore. Just don't create styrofoam anymore. Just tell the industries, the corporations, because we're the ones who control it. We're the ones buying the products. We won't buy it unless you fix it. End of story. Period. We need to change it. It's our planet. We are the bulk of humanity. It isn't the corporations, it isn't the Fortune 500, it isn't the Committee for 300, and it isn't the Trilateral. We could fire all of them if we had to. Period. But it's coming together and it's doing something about it. And it's going to have to be grassroots, and people are going to have to start doing it soon.
What is the primary message of the Andromedans?
Grow up now. Open your eyes, open your ears, take responsibility for your life, take responsibility for your planet, and realize this is your home, this is your race, and that if you are sincere in making the effort to evolve, they will meet us halfway. But they're not going to come in here and do all the work for us. Their single most important thing is we have got to start coming together as a race. We have got to stop allowing ourselves to be manipulated.
There was at one point a council meeting in Andromeda. It's only held there. They don't run it. It's only held there because it's a central point for many star systems in that part of our galaxy to talk about us. And I think it's noteworthy to tell you about this. I was told about this in the late 80s. But they don't have the same kind of time that we do. So I don't know the exact time that this meeting actually occurred. But they only shared it with me in the 80s when I was living in Malibu. There was a meeting to decide what to do here. There was a great deal of concern about intervening to assist us in our evolution because there were outside influences that were doing everything they could to suppress our evolution. And that's a whole other story. A very large contingency, fortunately, thought that it was in not only their best interest, but in our best interest to at least give us the opportunity to make our own choices without being manipulated. A smaller group made the argument, and this was their argument. They don't respect themselves, they don't respect each other, and they don't respect their home. What is their value? We are so busy with our life and going from here to there to here to there, packing up the kids, going to work, paying our bills, doing the grocery shopping, getting gas in the car. We are so busy with our lives that we rarely ever stop to think about what it is that we're really creating. Sometimes something has to happen, like a 9/11, like the cyclone that just hit Myanmar, the earthquake that hit China, where we're jolted out of our reality and we're able to take a step back and say, whoa, what are we doing? I share that with you because most of humanity is in that place. You know, their heads down and they're just pushing along, plodding along, trying to survive, trying to do everything that we've been doing and our ancestors have been doing for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. None of that stuff's going to work anymore. Okay? I know you guys already know that. Okay, the old paradigms are crumbling. They're done. It's just a question of time before they completely collapse and fall. And if you're watching that, if you're watching the world, you're beginning to see it. It's all crumbling. One of the things that the Andromedans are in awe of us about is our ability to create domains of knowing. So what am I talking about? The idea of human rights, the idea of a Bill of Rights, individual liberties, guaranteed rights of a people, how to live and how to be treated. That has not existed on our planet forever. Okay? But we created that. We created the idea of freedom. We created the idea of space travel. We created the idea of free energy. Now, yes, a lot of that has also come from the outside. But the reality is, the reason it's coming from the outside is because we pulled it here. Us. Okay, as a collective consciousness. We pulled all that to us. We even pulled the ETs here. And they've been here for a very, very long time. Okay, the worshiping of the gods, Hermes and Titan and yada, yada, yada. Okay? We did that because we are that powerful. We're magnificent.
Now, one of the factors that they look at, and the thing that totally awes them the most, is the fact that many of the more advanced races use technology to create things, to manifest things. The Andromedans heavily use holographics. Whatever they need, they create holographically. It is physically there, but when they're done with it, they turn off the switch and it's gone. It doesn't just sit there. All right? Like if you go home and your couch, you go away for a year, that couch sits right there. They are amazed at how much energy we put into creating things. Things, just things. Little tchotchkes that you put on the shelf, books. You know, all those things take an intense amount of energy to create. They're amazed that we have this ability.
They are absolutely in awe of the ability for people to create music, like our musicians here. They're amazed that they can just pull it out of nowhere. Because the Andromedans, they don't do that. As advanced as they are, they can't do that. What they do is as they travel through star systems, they have these holographic cameras that take pictures of stars, constellations, planets, and they all have a tone, and a frequency. And what they'll do is they'll record that, and then they will overlay those tones and frequencies, and that's how they create their music. All right? They take the music that the universe creates.
Their music is of the universe, of what the music that certain planets make as they rotate around their sun, what different solar systems make as they revolve around their sun, and what whole systems, the sounds and energy that they create, to them that's their music. And then they put things together, different constellations, different star systems, they'll put those together and overlap them to create music. It's different than what we just pull out of thin air here.
We, on the other hand, we create our own. We just pull it out of nowhere. They're an incredible race. Now, they're not gods, okay? In the metaphysical community, in the UFO community, the New Age community, it's dangerous to worship your myths and your idols, because when you do that, you don't necessarily see their faults.
And again, I want to stress this: the Andromedans can help, but they're not God. They're not our saviors. We need to be our own saviors. We can ask them for guidance and help, but they're not God. Period. Don't worship them. Don't worship anybody. Worship the God inside of you.
And everybody has faults. They are a fifth-dimensional race. They are technologically 10,000 years more advanced than us, and spiritually probably closer to 50,000. But they still have their own issues, okay, with their own society. They're still evolving. They're still trying to make their way and find out what is the path. And each one of them has their own path because they're individuals, just like we are. So regardless of who makes first contact, who shows up afterwards, whoever's in this room, the bottom line is this: we are all at different stages of evolution, but no one is better than any other. All right? No one is. And don't ever accept that. The Andromedans first came here because something happens in the future. And there's a very negative imbalance that occurs in their future. And in tracing it back, they traced it back to our solar system. I don't know if that is still a probability now. And the reason for that is fascinating, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's probably going to take a little while for it to sit with you, but it's important that I do the best that I can to share this. It is the Andromedan perspective that all of us on this planet are genetic royalty. That inside each one of us, we hold the combined DNA of 22 different extraterrestrial races. Now, all of the speakers have touched upon some of these things over the weekend, and I've sat in the audience with you, and bells would go off all the time. Dr. Cremo made reference to, here's physicality, but something brings it to life. Something creates the DNA. Okay, that's obviously spirit. It's soul. David Wilcock talked about the same thing, of spirit, higher dimensional realms, higher entities coming in and creating a template over life. All of these things are a possibility because God is so incredibly creative. There is no limit to the creativity of the Creator or to us.
No, everybody on the earth is from someplace else. None of us were born and hatched here. None of us as souls were created here. We all come from another time and place. My understanding is that all of the conscious spirit that's in this universe came through different black holes from other universes in time and space, which we simply aren't privy to. So we're ancient. There's no age to us. We weren't created with the universe. We came through another universe, through the black holes, to this place that we now call our universe, to continue to evolve. That's everyone. Virtually everyone.
Now, the Andromedan perspective, and I'm just going to get right into this and then I'll share some stories because I want you to sit with this. The Andromedan perspective is that many of us have already been through this cycle of evolution on a spiritual level. It is their perspective, and this is information that they have received from teachers that they have that are on 9th density, is that on the 11th density, there is a race of beings called the Patal. They're also known as the founders, who created the wormholes and many other things, okay, in our known universe. The Vidya, it's a holograph. Those who created our holograph, the original ones who created our holograph. Apparently, the spiritual evolution of our universe got stuck. Somehow it got stuck. And it was interesting that David Wilcock talked about that last night as well. It is their perspective that this group of Patal left eternity to fall back into the concept of time. And that many civilizations, approximately 21 civilizations, in third density, which are going through the same process we're going through, Patal are on all of those planets. Okay? So now you have highly spiritually evolved beings who came in to time, choosing to forget who they were, stepping into genetic royalty physicality. Now, within that physicality and that genetic makeup that we have, we also have the racial memories of these races. Now, that's profound, because when you take a look at the idea that many of these different races come from completely different environments, completely different living habitats and ecosystems, which we'll talk about, there truly is absolutely no limit to what we are and what we can do.
You know, if it's true that we've been on 11th density, then we have knowledge, we have experiences that none of these other races have. And we already know how to do this. And we already know. And we just have to somehow find out those keys. Every single one of you in this room has a piece of this puzzle. Every single one of you. You know, and you gotta honor that piece that you have, and you've got to honor yourselves. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not awesome, because you are. You are so awesome. It's just beyond words. You know, they want to consider you a natural resource. You will only be that if you believe it. It's that simple. This does not have to be a major struggle. Now, ladies and gentlemen, your consciousness, your thoughts, who you are, is not in your brain. The only reason that our bodies have the brain is so that our soul, our greater selves, whatever it is, can make the body move. Okay? Your essence is in your energy field. It's in your aura. That's who you are. That's your life force. That's where your consciousness is. It's not inside this bone right here. It's here. It's all around you.
The question no longer is, and I agree absolutely 100% with Paula on this, it isn't, are we alone? That question's done. The question is, what do we want? That's the question. Who do you want to be? It's not who you were, who do you want to be? What do you want? In what direction do you want to create? What do you want to create? Do we create it together, or do we stand as individuals? That's really where humanity is. We're going to get all the help in the world, but they are not going to do the work for us. They're just not. They can't. Now, it's the Andromedan perspective that we have all outlived our religions 450 years ago. But you know, everybody's looking, everybody's trying to find their own way. And hopefully they will all find it in their time. This is quite an adventure. And there is really something very profound about living in the moment. Because then you really pay attention. You're not thinking past it. You're really grateful for the moments that you're in right now, and really gratified for those moments that you have. Because time is really the only currency that we have. It's not money, it's time. There's not a minute you can get back. You can always make another dollar, but there's not a minute once it's gone that you can get back. I wanted to share with you the definition of who we are supposed to be, or who we're going to become. I asked one time in just pure desperation, what's going to happen to us? And, they've had a hard time with some of my passion and my emotions. I mean, I'm a Terran, and we use them here, not always responsibly, but we do. So I was just like, what is it that you want me to do? Just out of pure frustration. What's going to happen to us? And I just screamed at Visayas. And he just very calmly looked at me, and he goes, this is how we foresee who you will all become. Responsible freedom of self-determination, becoming truly self-confident and free, to unconditionally be responsible for yourself without being coerced by some other authority. Okay? They've said many, many times we are already who we need to be. It's just a question of remembering. And in that remembering, it's about letting go of what we would perceive as mistakes, of regrets. I had a contact in the 90s, and it was at a particular time in my life where just a lot of things weren't going well. And I didn't see any point in even being here. And I was with them on the ship, and I'm like, okay, I'm already in another reality. I just want to stay with you. And that was my request. I just want to stay with you. Don't even bother to take me back. I don't care about anything there. And I literally, with just the clothes on my back, I was ready to go. I was done. Unfortunately, they were not going to allow that to happen. And I was forced to come back. And I'm standing on the ground, and I'm watching them leave, and I'm crying. I'm like, you're abandoning me, and I don't want to be here. And Visayas was at the door, and he just very quietly and in his way telepathically said, Alex.
And he looked at me and he smiled, and his words were, the love that you withhold is the pain that you carry. That's been the most memorable one, only because of what that particular statement entails. When we leave our physical form, and what many of the Catholicisms teach, you're judged by God. It just simply isn't true. We judge ourselves. And what I read in that statement is that when we cross over, we look at the places in our life where we withheld love, that we maybe didn't give enough. And we judge ourselves on that. So that's been the most profound one for me.
The love that you withhold is the pain that you carry, lifetime after lifetime. And that was a real aha moment, okay? And it was an aha moment because we make decisions like that without ever thinking about them, really. Somebody calls us on the phone, hey, I really need to talk to you, I have a situation, and you're like, I've had a crappy day, I can't be bothered with it. And you just don't call them back. Or the kids want to do something, and they really want to do it, and you're just too tired, and you say, no, we're not going to do it. And the decision isn't that you could do it, the decision is that you chose not to do it, And maybe those aren't the best examples, but we all have made choices to withhold love. From partners, from family, from ourselves. We've all made those decisions. And those are tough. Those are really, really tough to look at. We've all been there. And being consciously aware of not choosing to withhold love is an amazing feat. And it is not an easy one either. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't remind myself of that. I mean, that was an aha moment that's with me every day now. Doesn't always mean that, I always make the best choices or the right choices. And what we're going through here with shifts, with new dimensional shifts, with higher frequencies, with expanded consciousness, so are the other extraterrestrial races. They're going through the exact same thing as we are, but it's different for them. Okay, they're a much more aware consciousness. They probably have not suppressed any of the technology from their people, so they know what's happening. And they are all moving together because of the law of consistency. They are all moving together. They all have the same similar goal, and that's of evolution, okay? Spiritual evolution, and moving together as a race, as a family. They're coming back here to try to help mentor us for that because of who we are, whether we're Patal or not. Okay, we are genetic royalty. I have absolutely no doubt about that. And that in itself is remarkable, especially when you consider when we've lived on this planet, everything that we've been taught about who we are. Religions have punished us profoundly.
No, it does. The fears that I have are my own. How do I put this? I have a lot of years invested as a child and as a young adult in Christianity. I have been made aware of the fact that there's no net underneath me. No net at all. And the fear that I have is my own belief in myself to be totally self-responsible. I can admit that. So that's the fear. Because if there's no net underneath me, it lies squarely on my shoulders to figure out my reality. And when I see all this stuff going on, what is it that I want to create? What do I want to create?
Science says we're just a pool of chemicals that was created by a mistake. It's remarkable. But we're none of that. We're absolutely none of that. And my guess is that we had this planned all along. We planned this struggle all along to grow, to evolve, to make a statement to the rest of the universe. Okay. I want to share, in their words, some of the things that they've shared with me. I'm going to talk about consciousness. The most necessary action for all of your Terran races who are aware is to do what you are capable of to illuminate your degenerated societies. Consciousness is your scale. It always provides balance, which does not ever fail. It speaks to those who listen and tells them what to do and what not to do. Not to one or all beings who choose to be evolved. The administrators of your government are responsible for professional order, but not your moral codes of order. The key to your happiness, Terrans, is in the hands of your own consciousness. We have perceived that you Terrans have arranged your lives not according to yourselves, but according to others. Your disappointments are due to this fact. This kind of conduct of yours is what is limiting your races. Each one of you is a free soul, a free consciousness. No one is the servant or slave of anyone else, though the hidden ones would trick you to believe otherwise. Mutual respect is imperative for a healed planet and race. Our help is being extended to you if you so want it. Because of your genetic lineages to our races, we would like to be there with you during your difficult times. Today, your planet and your race destroys itself in ignorance. The goal is to recover the genuine human beings lost deep within yourselves, and try to always be at one with yourself. In Andromeda, one of the things that they stress is creating a race of leaders. In that leadership, everyone has a responsibility to not only be a leader themselves, but to make a leader of everyone else. And in that, everybody moves together. There may be varying different degrees, but everybody moves together. This is something that they have stressed over and over and over again. They've also stressed being as close to nature as possible. You folks here in Hawaii, that's really easy. And you live in an incredible place. For those of us who live on the mainland or in other countries, in big cities, it's much more difficult. I want you to know that we're the only planet that I'm aware of that uses currency. Okay? In fact, I had an experience where Morine and Visayas had asked me to try to explain to them why we used money, or what they refer to as paper with pictures on it. So I spent a great deal of time in between contacts putting something together for them. And I had a contact. I was living in Malibu at the time up on Decker Canyon, and I had this opportunity to present this information to them. So as I'm presenting it, I'm going through it. I had a paper with me that I was reading it off and had little charts that I'd carried in my backpack. And when it was all over, and of course they already knew this information because they've been watching our history, Visayas said, thank you very much. Morine said, thank you very much. I enjoyed it. But Visayas just looked at me, and he just had a very straight face. And he just said, I don't understand. And I said, well, what do you not understand? Now, Visayas was always telepathic. He never learned to use his vocal cords. He said, I don't understand why you have to live, why you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on. Why do you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on? That haunted me for many years, that statement. Because, how do we unravel that? What do we create in order to drop that paradigm? And how do we create it? Who's going to step up and say, you know what? We have fought wars over money. We have fought wars over gold. We have fought wars over this and fought wars over that. We have nearly destroyed the planet. We have destroyed species. We're destroying humanity. And it's all over power, wealth, and things like that. How do we move from this paradigm to the next paradigm? How do we do it? I know that there are a lot of folks trying, making suggestions, talking to people, sharing their perspectives. I know there are a lot of contactees or folks, there are hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands, who have not come forward yet. The extraterrestrial civilizations have given up on the governments of the world, of Earth, a long time ago. The only ones that are actually fully integrating with a lot of the Earth governments, you don't really want to meet anyway. So, how do we find our soul again? What does it take to change the essence of a man? Is there a phrase? Is there a mantra? Is there a prayer? Is there an event? You know, what does it take to change the essence of a man or a woman? I don't have that answer, but I am asking the question, and I have been for a long time. Many of us, and I'm not necessarily referring to the folks in the room here, many of us have completely lost our way. We know a lot of good people who would do anything for us as friends, but they simply don't have a clue. We want them to be aware of the changes that are coming, and you can put all this information in front of them and they're simply going to just dismiss it because it's too overwhelming to them. You know, they have to take it in little bites and little slices. They just simply don't want to deal with it because they're so overwhelmed just trying to manage a life that already doesn't work. Okay, or they're not already happy with because it's all that they know, and they're afraid to let it go because they don't have anything else to believe in, just what it is that they do every day. So in creating a new domain of knowing and asking the question, what is it that we want? It has to be something that everybody can take hold of a piece of. For example, every day there are little things that we could do to begin shifting our consciousness. Every day when we get up, the first thing we should do is be grateful that we're alive to see another day. And just make that acknowledgement. Spirit, thank you. Always tell your children that you love them. Every day. Tell them that you're proud of them. Always tell your wife that you love her, or your partner that you love her. Always be friendly and cordial at the office. Okay? When you hear an ambulance drive by, just say a blessing. Say, I bless whoever that's for, and that their highest good is what is achieved. Little things like that. When you walk into a room, just say, I bless this room. Little things like that make all the difference. Because it's conscious intent that every day when you do things like that, and that's all, those things are easy to do, all right? Is what you do is you begin to polarize. You begin to magnetize those spaces with your thoughts. And whatever you magnetize and you put out, it will come back. It will be mirrored back to you. That's why Earth is boot camp for the soul. It's because that's what it does. It mirrors our shit back to us. You know? And the more shit, the more shit. Okay? And that's why it's so overwhelming after a while. So it's little things. And I share that because these are things that, I've had to try to do, and I struggle to remember them every day. But these are little things that I can do. I bless my food, you bless your coffee. What you do is you just get into a space of blessing everything. And it does, in fact, change the frequency. It will change the people that you work with. It might take a little bit of a while, but these are simple things. It's just, like the movie The Secret said, it's an attitude of gratitude. Okay? But they're just little things that you can remember to do every day. At lunchtime, go for a walk. Don't sit in your cubicle, but go for a walk. Go outside. When you go to the bathroom, if you work in an office, when you're done, instead of going right back into your office to your cubicle, go downstairs, go outside, loop around the building, and come back in. Just give yourself a break. Just remember where you are. Don't get stuck in just being so in a rut that you forget, because it's easy. That's why we're so stuck on Earth. And you know, the extraterrestrials, the visitations, the psychic phenomena, the paranormal phenomena, all of that stuff, ladies and gentlemen, is us. It's all happening to us because it is us. They're all reminders of who we are. All we have to do is get out of our own way. Some things. I've shared with you the Andromedan perspective about who we are. I want you to know that Earth has been an experiment for a very, very long time. Every life form that's here has come from a different planet, different star system, in some cases even from different universe or galaxies. And what's happened is that each one of the life forms on this planet, virtually most of them, have been genetically altered to live in our ecosystem. Okay, an Earth environment, E-type, is actually very rare. This is not the norm. This is a very complicated ecosystem that we live on. Many of the creatures on our world would be found in other planets, other star systems, in methane, on methane planets, hydrogen planets, carbon, all different kinds of chemical components that we haven't even discovered yet, that these life forms live in. But as travelers travel through space, what they'll do is they'll pick up these life forms. They will collect DNA. And then what they'll do is they'll experiment with it. They'll try to recreate these life forms, just like we are at a place of doing now. This is not new. Civilizations have been doing this forever, okay, to try to improve or to see what happens. Earth is magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And many of the extraterrestrial races that have talked to the Andromedans have just been beside themselves at how bad it's gotten. They just don't understand why we, as a race, would allow any of our governments to use technology that they know is harmful to the planet. They just don't get it. And like the clip said, now is the time. Now is definitely the time to make some changes. And I know you guys are. You know, I know you're so dedicated that you've made the time and put the resources together to come here to hear the speakers, to make the changes within yourself, to share this stuff with your friends and share the DVDs. I know that. But like I said, life, these tapes, these DVDs have a life of their own. They go other places. Thank you.
And I mean, we have an incredible future if we can get through that. It's gonna, if 10% of the population of the planet can really get it together, it'll create what is called the 100th monkey syndrome. And suddenly 11, 12, 13% people will just start getting it. And it's going to take 10%. That's 500, 600 million people right now. And it starts on an individual basis. You know, the government's not going to tell you. You know, I mean, God, we could be in. They're going to play out the second coming. They're going to try to present a savior. They're going to project holographic images in space and say we're here to save you. They're going to do mock battle. I mean, they're going to screw with us big time. Sorry, I slipped out that word. You know, and folks, we just got to start paying attention. Don't take anything at face value. Make them prove it. And, you know, whether you believe a word I'm saying, it doesn't matter. If somebody tells you that this is truth, make them prove it. If it's real, it'll stand up to scrutiny. If it isn't, It won't. Because the truth can always stand on its own. It doesn't need help, and it doesn't need lies to stand up. And let's end it there.
I want you to know that I am really, really proud of you. And I'm really proud of us. And I know that we have not shown our qualities as a race on this planet through our history. But I also know that when the chips are down, that most people will stand up and they will do the right thing. I know that. And I truly feel that. And that has been my argument with the A's and my stand with the A's all along. You know, for those of us who are Americans, we are dangerously close to losing our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. Everything's been in place to wipe it away. In 2010, secret arrangements have been made and plans and treaties have been signed to create a North American Union. This is supposed to take place in 2010. The Constitution and Bill of Rights are not part of those documents. Okay? We have an opportunity here to create a new paradigm, a new domain of knowing. It just takes leadership. It takes foresight. It takes it's going to take the ability for you to communicate to your friends and your family when everything really, really starts to fall apart. And we're beginning to see it now. The world's global economy is having a lot of ripples, a lot of effects, a lot of changes. Here in the United States, we will be the first, as usual, to experience a lot of that stuff. Okay? But you're going to be the leaders. You're going to be the ones that are going to stand there in your communities and say, look, this is what's been going on. This is what it is, and this is what we have to do. It's no accident that you are who you are. Okay, we've all volunteered for this. And my suggestion is the next time they ask us to do this, we really read the fine print on those contracts. Okay? Because I don't remember being this hard. I vaguely remember something about a walk in the park and okay. We have just a few more minutes, and I was wondering if anybody had any questions. Okay.
If you could speak to death, both for us and death for the Andromedans, and where and how that ties together, perhaps.
Death.
In terms of the soul, I mean, we the information that's presented here, yet we go home and we have our families and hospice and people dying, and how that ties in with the process that we're going through. I mean, you spoke of lifetimes, you spoke of reincarnation.
Right. That's a great question. My understanding is that in the Andromedan culture, they have reincarnation as well. But in their culture, when a soul crosses over, it has full memory of who it is when it comes back into the physical. Again, it's that law of consistency. We don't have that. And again, I believe that's that fine print on the contract. Reincarnation is still a fact here as well. Okay, we do have reincarnation. Where the soul goes after there's death, I don't have that answer. I don't have that answer.
Yes, aloha, Alex. I watched your show on Google, UFO Hypothesis, and you talk a lot about your contacts with the Andromedans. Have you been having contacts within the last couple of years, or anything that's been more recent in nature, and any messages through that?
For 5 years, I pushed them away. And the reason I did, it just got too hard. it got too hard to walk the two worlds. So I pushed them away, and I had a lot of work to do. Recently, though, the contacts have resumed, and much of it has been on of a personal relationship. The message has been more or less personal relationship, just getting to know each other once again after a very long time of not talking to each other. I actually got pretty pissed off with them, if you really want to know the truth. I got mad about some things that happened in my life, and I felt that they should have told me. So there you have it.
Thank you, Alex, for everything. Aloha.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, regarding the financial structures of our planet and the difference between their not needing currency, do they foresee a transition for us into that?
What virtually all the other cultures do, that's a great question, what virtually all the other cultures do is that they have a very small government, and basically everything's managed by the people. Everything is provided, education, housing, everything that you would need to live is there. In turn for that, you participate in doing several years of learning how to grow food, horticulture, of managing livestock, dealing with nature, building machinery, building spacecraft, learning astronomy, planetary astronomy. You would participate in all of those fields, and as you're participating, and you're not only getting an education, but you're also contributing, all of your needs are met. Everything is there, and each generation contributes, and it just works out perfectly. It's almost like a utopian society. Nobody has to pay for anything. It just doesn't happen.
Hi there. I'm right at the back.
Oh.
Hi. I have a question for you. And I was interested to know if they told you, when it comes to constructing things, have they explained to you how far they go with manual construction, or whether they use thought manifestation, whether they combine energy with matter to construct places, buildings, and things like that?
Actually, both. They also use holographic technology.
Yeah, I thought perhaps that might be the truth. So I was wondering what they'd said to you about whether they get together as a group and maybe manifest a park or a garden or homes and things.
My understanding is that the park areas, all of that is created using holographic technology. If you're in this craft and you move into one of these park areas, you literally have no idea you're in a spaceship. Mm-hmm. And you would never know you were in a spaceship.
Yeah.
I mean, they could create a Hawaii in the middle of these motherships. Mm-hmm. And you would think you were in Hawaii. You would not know unless you consciously were aware that you had walked into the ship, walked upstairs, took in elevators, what they call elevators, well, we would call elevators, to different levels, and then walked out into the park area in the spaceship as you're traveling through space. It is the most phenomenal thing I could possibly, that you could possibly experience.
Yeah.
It's awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
You know, it's just...
And they're using their thoughts to bring that matter together and so it becomes solid in front of you like a flower.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, they magnetize thought. They magnetize space with their thought. There's a lot we didn't cover, and I'm out of practice. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lawson.